Good afternoon and welcome to another presentation from Christian Faith Ministries. It's a beautiful sunny afternoon here in Jos, Nigeria, and I'm seated here this afternoon with our mama, Reverend Mrs. Ruth Hodge. You're welcome, ma.
Thank you, sir.
Today we'd like to talk about our children's ministry here at Christian Faith Ministries, and there's no other person better qualified to talk about the children's ministry here than the person of Reverend Mrs. Ruth Hodge, who's been behind much of what we are doing with the children in this place. I would like to begin by asking Mama, how did it all start? I want you to talk to us about how this whole idea for the children's ministry in this place came about.
Okay, when we began the Bible College here in 2007, we didn't have any plan for children's work, particularly except for children's church, Sunday school, this kind of thing. But in 2013, we went to visit a very dear friend of ours who disciples new believers from a Muslim background. And when we visited our dear friend, we discovered with him about 30 children. And it was the time of school, term was on, and they were all around. And we said, "Why are you having so many children here?" And he said to us, "Well, these ones are children who were abandoned in Muslim areas, or they were children of Muslims who, for one reason or another, abandoned their children, various reasons." And he taught them primary school, but they weren't equipped to do secondary school in his compound. And he had them in a Christian school, but there came the time when they increased the fees, and he couldn't pay. And instead of helping him, the school said he had to collect them all, just threw them out. And we really felt for him. They weren't the children of his own body or anything like this. He was helping them, and that other Christians didn't want to help him. And actually we felt ashamed for ourselves that here we are other Christians and we're not helping him. So we realized at that time that we needed to offer a helping hand. And at that time there were 14 children who should have been in secondary school. And so we said, well, we have a building we can use, we can house them, we can have like a small boarding school, because our Bible school compound is across the road from a secondary school, a good secondary school, a quality one. So we said, let's take them, we'll pay their school fees, we'll feed them, we'll care for them. Please come and visit them, you are their father, but we will help you. So that's how we began, with 14 children.
It's amazing where we are now. I mean,
yes.
About 3 years from when we started.
Yes.
We started with about 14 children. We have about how many children now in all our
on our books, we have 233 residents. But in the community, we're hoping at least another 300.
Okay. So there are a number of other children who are not on our books, but who are not resident with us, but that we are
They're not
responsible
resident.
for also.
Mostly their school fees.
Okay.
Because most of the children where we are helping with school fees, most of them are children of widows. And they have no way, they can barely feed the children, let alone educate them. And there's no free schools in Nigeria anymore. So we help pay their school fees. So we went around our local community, Muslim and Christian, because we are in a community where both religions are here. And the Muslim children are suffering perhaps more than the Christian children. And so we went round to the community elders and to the schools, and we said, do you have children who were here before that now are not able to come? Children of widows. We specifically asked for children of widows. And it was about 300.
Wow.
So we pay their school fees for these children, but we monitor them through the elders. And if there's a crisis in the family, sometimes we help as well, because families go through crisis. We have another family we help where the husband had a stroke, and all of the family money was used in getting treatment for the husband. He's recovering, but there's no money left to pay school fees for the children, no money left to eat. They really struggled, and there's no free medicine here, there's no free education. So when the family has a crisis, it's really difficult for them.
They're actually on their own.
They are on their own. Unless they have relatives in a position to help, but often the relatives are not in a position to help. So we began to gather children. People brought us children, and most of the children we have are children of widows or families in total crisis. Sometimes, the husband is an alcoholic, and then the wife gets desperate herself. Sometimes both of them are in alcohol or drugs, and the children are just abandoned. We have a few Almajiri children who are actually orphan children, and their parents abandoned them or they were killed. Some of them are killed by Boko Haram, and they were left to beg on the streets. When we got those children, their bodies were covered in rashes. They had scabies all over. They had insects hopping on them. They had malaria. They had typhoid. They had hepatitis B. They were so sick. And gradually they were recovering. One group of Almajiri children, when they first came, the first son in that family is a bit simple. But the second son, he's just 10 years now, and he's been with us for almost a year. He was the leader of the family at 9 years. And when he came, he was a Muslim. So he did his Muslim prayers. Nobody objected. We just left him. He was doing everything he knew. But in a few days, he began to pick up the songs that the children are singing in their worship. And soon he just forgot them. And when they give thanks for food, he's always the one who says, I want to pray, I want to pray.
Hallelujah.
And they say, why do you want to pray? And they say, because I know what it is to be hungry. And I'm really thankful that we have food to eat. Every day we have good food to eat. So his life, the life of that family has been turned around. And this child, the older one, he's now 12. He's simple, but he's getting help. He's actually learning to read. And no one ever thought he would be able to do something like that. So these lives, the children of these lives are really transformed. And we're very thankful to God.
As we listen to you share these wonderful testimonies and talk about these children, what comes to mind is, I can only imagine the immensity of the challenge that confronts these children when they come to us initially. The mental issues, the psychological issues, the trauma, the emotional issues. Will you throw a little light on some of these challenges we face with these children? What condition do we pick them from?
Okay. Well, just this year we accepted 80, and in fact it's almost 100 now, children from the southern Borno state where Boko Haram has just created havoc. And most of them, again, are children of widows. So there's a few that have no parents at all. Some of them, their mothers were already widows before the crisis, and they were just managing on farm, a small farming. But really, the children didn't eat very often. And some of the teenage children we have, they never even went to school because of all the suffering they've been through. And some of the younger children we had, they'd never heard of school because since they grew to be big enough to walk around, their schools have been shut or burnt completely. When we first got these children, they came in February and March here to Wurin Alhiri. When they first came, our father here, our house father, he tells us if he rang a bell, they would duck to the ground.
Wow.
Because if they hear metal on metal, they always think it's guns or knife or cutlass, and they just would run and hide. So he couldn't use bell. He just had to send someone to gently call the children to eat. Once they knew there was food, they would run. Because some of them, they would only eat occasionally. And when they came, their arms were so thin. Their bellies were big and their arms were thin. Some of their hair was this red color of children with kwashiorkor. Malnourished children. A number of them had hepatitis B. Many of them had typhoid, very high, titer of typhoid proportion in their blood. Some had malaria, even though it was dry season. Because their immune systems were so low, the malaria they got before was coming up because their body had no strength to keep it down. So they were really and they didn't smile. They didn't play. They didn't know how to play. Why use energy to play when all the energy you need is to stay alive? So to see the children playing like you see behind us, it's taken some months of very careful care. And really, I praise our house parents because all of them have taken such beautiful care of the children. And you can see the spiritual recovery in them. They're not afraid anymore. Now they laugh and they play and they argue like normal children. Children are supposed to argue. It's normal. You correct them for it, but it's normal. You're worried when they don't do that.
Yeah, you're worried when they don't do that, actually.
Because that's what children do. That's how they learn. They learn by the things that they suffer. But they suffer too much.
You talk about these things, and for someone who is just hearing from afar, sometimes you can't really you can't tell the extent of what has been put in, what has gone into having an environment like this for these children, rehabilitating them, giving them the best care that they are getting in this place. I would want to ask you to talk to us a little about how you're able to raise this support for the work that is being done in this place.
Well, I would have to say it's miraculous. And when we first took those children, we just said to each other, my husband and I said to each other, we don't have the money, but we can't. How can you see a child naked and not clothe him, hungry and not feed him, without a home and not help him? And that is the case for so many children in so many nations across the world, but we are in this nation. And so the ones that we see, we can't turn our face away and pretend that we didn't see it, because our eyes saw it and our ears heard the children, and we saw their faces. So we just decided that we would do it. And we trusted God, and we began to share some of the children's stories. Support began to come in. In fact, when we just had the few children, in fact, we had 14 to begin, and then very quickly it was 40. And at the point it was 40, we visited one friend in UK, and she was working for Christian Broadcasting Network, and so they helped with. They decided to help us. We had another program at that time. At that time, some of this was 2015. Some of the Boko Haram refugees, the internally displaced people, were trying to return home, and we were trying to help them with fertilizer and seed and pesticides so they could begin to farm again, because all of their animals were stolen. The ones who survived,
their farmlands had been plundered.
Their grain stores stolen, their animals stolen. They had nothing to start again. And some of them had been in the camps for displaced people, barely food to eat, not to talk of school or medical help. A few of the camps are better organized now, but at that time it was very terrible. So we had a program to try to help some. We were trying to raise funds to help these people go home. And so they said, okay, make an application. And they told us the organization. We made an application and nothing happened. It was end of March 2015. And Nigeria is tropical. We have rainy season, we have dry season. If you don't plant your crops by April, and particularly further northeast again, if you don't have them in the ground by end of April, beginning of May, forget it. It's too late for crops. So you can't grow food. You can't plant in July. But it was the end of July when we got a reply to our application. I had the application in first week of April. I wrote it in a week, desperate to get help for them. Now, God gave some help from other places. But when they told me, we are now considering your application, I wrote to them and I explained, look, it's too late for that. Beginning of August, you can't begin to plant crops in northern Nigeria. There's no point. You're not going to get anything. You're just wasting money. So they said, but I said, we have many other projects. Can I apply for this one? Then they said, apply for the children's one. So I applied. And again, a long time they didn't hear. We didn't hear anything from them. Then September, they said, we like your application. We are going to send 2 people to look at what you're doing. By this time, we had about 80 children. Wow. And how God provided...
14 to 40, 40 to 80.
Yes, this is in about 8 months. Wow. So we said, well, we haven't had a lot of help yet, but this is what we're doing. We told them that we are building this building. We began to extend this building in May. We had the decking on it for the upper level. Okay. And we decided at that time that we will put rooms in it so we can house 200 children. In fact, that's what we have here now, about 200 children when they're all here. So they said, okay, we can help you with that. 2 people came to visit, Mr. Sergei Badaji from Senegal, who's their West African director for Orphans Promise, and Pastor John from Abuja. And they came. In fact, it was Salah the day they came. And we went and visited one of our Muslim elders in our local community. And they really enjoyed this because they knew all about the problems of Jos, of Bukuru. Yeah. And to see these friendly relations that we go to eat Salah with this man. And both of them were formerly Muslim. Okay. So they understood entirely what it takes to have these relations. They understood that we have children with us who were formerly Muslim. And they were very happy, and they just loved what they saw. And so from that, Orphans Promise by January, it takes time for these applications. By January, we began to get some, we got some funds by October, a little bit, then another little bit in November. Then by January, we got some big money to help us finish off this building. So we thank God for that. So they helped us with this building. Then they helped us a little bit each month. Otherwise, we have different sponsors in Australia who help us. We have different sponsors in UK who help us. And we are really looking for sponsors in Nigeria too. It's not that Nigeria has no money, it's just that it's not evenly spread. So we are looking for people who have a heart to rebuild Nigeria. You know, if we neglect these children and they grow up bitter, what happens? You know, 2 of our team, recently they went to a refugee camp in Maiduguri, a Christian refugee camp, not the Muslim one. This is a Christian refugee camp. All the people there are Christian. There's no Muslim there. And they gave some aid. They gave some beans and some rice and some products for helping the people there. And they just got chatting with the children. They said to the children, okay, when you grow up, what do you want to do? And every single child said, I want a gun. I'm going to kill the people who did this to me. Now, this is Christian children. What happens to these children? And these are the ones that are getting help. Some help. But you look at them and they're not getting enough help. They're not in school. They're just hanging around all day. They're getting food, but when my friends, our team took the food there, they showed the stores was completely bare. The only food they got is the mothers went and begged on the street, or the fathers went and got some day labor. That's the only way they were getting food. So even we as Christians, we're not looking after our own family. And people are trying their hardest there. And that's one of the better supplied camps. If you go to Bama or you go to some places in southern Borno, if you go in northern Borno, there's not even camps because it's still occupied by Boko Haram. You know, if we don't help these children, and this is what Christian children are saying, what hope is there tomorrow? The one we saw in the last few years in Nigeria is nothing to the one that will come. If we neglect these children, we are breeding up a generation of
they
people
grow up bitter, resentful, and
with a genuine grievance that when we were hungry, who fed us? We just begged on the street, and we barely ate. And you also, when you have children like that, they don't develop well mentally. You know that they actually have some deficiencies in their heads because they don't eat good food. So we are even programming their minds like that. So their minds are damaged, not just psychologically, but physically they are damaged because they didn't eat well as children.
And, a while ago, behind us, there have been many children playing. And a while ago, I think they all excitedly just rushed in this direction. Yes. And I think I had the bell for their lunch,
heard the bell.
So they were very eager and excited to go and eat. And I was just thinking, not too long from today, that wasn't possible for many of these children.
It wasn't possible.
These ones are privileged to be in a position now where they know that at 1 o'clock every day, there's something to eat. In the morning, there's something to eat. And in the evening, there's something to eat.
That's it.
And we have many children like this around who would wish for the same opportunity. I mean, not too long ago, a good number of these ones were not even certain where a meal will come from for a whole day. I'd like you to talk to us about, you've spoken to us extensively about where some of our support comes from and the challenge on ground for us.
Yes.
Is there still room for other persons to become a part of what we are doing in this space?
There's so much room. You know, you can see behind us they're building schoolrooms, and just every week we decide what we can do for this week.
Okay.
But we need to build these schoolrooms. We can't send these children to local schools because they are so far behind. We have 17-year-olds learning to read. You want to put them in a class with 4-year-olds? That's just to humiliate them. We can't do that. And they can't learn by learning like small children. They have to learn at their own pace. And really, they're going so fast. These children came in February, March, and it took us about 2 months to nurse them back to health, because they were not in a position to begin lessons when they first arrived. So by beginning of May, we started school. And so the children have been, some of them finished a year between May and July, because they're so keen to learn. They're so enthusiastic. They're so dedicated. In fact, every afternoon when we come back from the office in the evenings, my husband and I walk around here, and you'll see some children playing football, and you'll see many of them with a book. Even small ones, big ones, because they just want to learn.
The desire is strong.
So strong. So we have to promote this. So we are keeping the classes small.
Okay.
We are hiring good teachers. We are giving them every extra we can find, art, music, to find what skills these have. In addition, we have a vocational training facility, which we've built the buildings. Right now we are putting electric wiring in. We need to buy a generator. We don't have any Nesco or NEPA here. So we want all our children, big or small, to get vocational skills. Because some of them really, they're not going to do tertiary education. They're already quite old. Some of them will, and everybody has different aptitudes. Some of them are very good with their hands. And so we need to give every child, every student, a skill so they can have a way of earning an income. So we have a lot of things. We want not just to let these children manage. We want to equip these children. One day, they are the ones who will go back and build their region again. And what they build will be better than what they met.
Yeah, what they met is true. It's good that you're sharing all these things you are with us this afternoon. It's also important for every one of you who is listening out there to, like Mama said, there's still room for you to be part of what is happening here. It's not too little, it's not too great. I mean, often we wonder where you are. Am I really able to contribute? I mean, what I have is very little. What am I able to do? I think that if we take it up collectively as a responsibility, I mean,
Yes.
a corporate responsibility for all of us as Nigerians, as human beings, to take care of children around us, we'll have a better world tomorrow.
Yes.
I'd like to ask, what do you think should be the response of the church in the face of all this plight that our children are going through today?
I think the church should be responding positively. Now, just today, we had one pastor contact us and say he has these children with him, they are orphans, he wants to bring them to us. And he's a church of a very big denomination, a very wealthy Pentecostal denomination in Nigeria. In fact, probably one of the wealthiest. And we thought, why are you bringing them to us when your denomination has the funds to do it? We can all, even if it's the child you see on the street near your house, you can bring that child in and add him to the food you feed your children. It's not difficult. You can get together with a neighbor. You can say, can we manage to buy Christmas clothes for this child? Can we, all the people in your neighborhood, maybe we can each contribute 100 naira, pay his school fees. We can do things. You know, even if you share the child around your neighborhood, we can do it. Even if if one whole congregation sponsors one child for school, we can do it. You know, even if it's small. Really, the small thing is the most valuable because it's an example that other people see, yes, we can do this. And that child will be a blessing. You know, just a little while ago, I was talking to a very dear friend of ours in Nigeria. And some years ago, he found this Muslim boy. All he'd ever done was follow cattle. And he was rejected from his home and his family. And the man took him in, educated him. Today, that young man, who was 16 years old and had never read never spoken a word of English, never read a letter in his life. He's a medical doctor.
Great.
Here in Nigeria.
Wow.
Benefiting his country. And he's not one of the ones who wants to run off to US. He wants to enrich his own place.
Because someone gave him a chance.
Someone gave him a chance. And that's what you see. You know, we have a doctor, we have a little clinic because, as I said, our children were so ill. And we have a wonderful health worker there, but we also have a wonderful doctor who comes each week. And if we need him in an urgent situation, he runs to us. And we discovered, he volunteered to help us. We don't pay him anything. We discovered that, you know how he began his education? He was a young man. He hadn't completed secondary school. And he felt the call of God. And my husband gave him a scholarship in Bible school many, many years ago. And that was his start. From there, he came up. Eventually, he put himself through medical school. And now, he gives back. He gives back to these, he gives back everywhere. His whole life is giving back. You know, and that's what we're believing for these children. They won't be a bother to anyone. They will be investors in their nation because they know what's been invested in them. So we want to invest in them big because then they will invest big.
Back into the society.
Back into it.
Also, yeah.
And the small we have done will be multiplied 1,000 times.
You know, I think it's a very big challenge for us out there, and it's a very big challenge for the church today also.
Yes.
Like you rightly said, I think it's where our priorities lie. Because it would be a lie to say that some of our churches around are not wealthy enough to cater for the children we have on the streets. But I think we've just not made it a priority.
Yes.
Yeah. But from the things you are saying, the sooner we make it a priority, the better it is for us. Because every day we neglect them, we endanger tomorrow.
We do, sir.
If they are not properly taken care of today,
exactly,
they might become the problems we have to deal with tomorrow.
In fact, they will.
So it might be cheaper just to take care of them today than to begin to try to solve the problems that they will leave for us tomorrow.
True. You know, the cost of one bomb could build 5 schools. You know that? When they drop one bomb, it could build 5 schools.
Imagine that.
That's the cost of war. And instead of building schools, they are destroying them. They don't mean to.
So it's actually cheaper to build schools than to fight a war.
It's cheaper to build a school
and if we
than
don't
to
build
drop a bomb.
Today, we would get to war tomorrow.
That's it. That's it.
It's good to hear and to know these things.
Yes.
What are your projections for the future with respect to our children in this place? I understand this is not the only home we have. We also have a children's home in Abuja, and
we do.
I don't know. The story about how the home in Abuja started is quite inspiring and touching. I think Daddy, Professor Ken Hodge, was coming to Jos on one of his trips from Australia, and he saw some of the children on the street, and he was asking, what do these children do? He was told they are margeries. They just go about begging and whatever they get. And he was taught and decided, let's do something about it. And that's how the home started there.
Yes.
And today we have several children there.
We have about 60 children.
About 60 children. His school has started there. That is catering not just for these children, but also catering for the community around in the place. So what are your projections for the future? What do you think, or where do you see us going from where we are now?
Well, we believe we will build good schools. We're going to build quality schools.
Okay.
And we want our children to get a quality education. We are keeping our classes small. About the homeless children, well, we believe that one day the children with us will be investors in Nigeria. We don't know how long it will take. Some of the children are very small. Some of them are just 5 or 6 years. Some of them are already teenagers. But gradually, each one of them will grow. Whether we'll see what God does with that. But we believe that the most important thing about what we are doing here is the example. To show that it's not impossible, that all of us can reach out and care for children. We can invest in tomorrow. We can change the direction our nation is heading in. And we can build a kind of nation that some people run away to other nations. And really, some of the things they meet there, they don't like. And they prefer the things at home. When we come into Nigeria, we meet people coming home. And there's, I'm looking forward to be home because of this, that, and the things that I agree. So many rich things in Nigeria. And some of them we are abandoning. You know, in times past, we wouldn't have had children like this. Because in times past, we had community in Nigeria.
Catered for children, whether they are yours or not.
Yes. You are even the one that told me that in your village, if there's food, if there's children in your house, you just feed all of them.
You do.
You don't choose which child you feed because it's your own child. You just feed all of them.
Yeah. It's the African ideal.
It is. It's how Africa used to be and how it should still be. But we have picked up ideas from my place. I'm ashamed to say from my place. And they are bad ideas of me and my own. It's very wrong. It's destroying the West. And it's not helping Nigeria. So we need to build on the good things in Nigeria. And we need to bring back community, but community that's bigger than our own group, which is all nations, all people, and we care for them all, because that way we'll get peace, and that way we'll get prosperity, that way we'll get a healed nation.
It's been great talking to you this afternoon, Mama.
Thank you, sir.
Before I let you go, I would just want to take a final word from you. What will be your charge to the people listening to you and watching you this afternoon? What will be your final word to them, especially as it concerns taking our place with becoming caregivers to children in whatever capacity we are able to?
I think we should do that. We should become caregivers to children in whatever capacity. If they're our own children, if they're the children of our relatives, we should care for them well. You know, you hear so many stories of abuse, and we should erase that from our country. It's a shame to us all, wherever it happens. We should be treating these children as if they were our own precious children. As if we only had one child and we want to care for that child. We should treat all our children, not just the children of our body, the children of our family, the children of our neighborhood, the children of our people group, the children of the other people group. We should be caring for them, because that way we are building a tomorrow that we will envy.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us this afternoon.
You're welcome.
It's been a blessing hearing from you. And I want to believe that every one of you who are privileged to watch this interaction with Mama this afternoon, been challenged by the things she said, you look around and you see what we are doing as a ministry in this place. And this is just a fraction of the work that we have to do and the responsibilities we are taking up by the grace of God every day. There is a very big opportunity for as many of you as are interested and as are taught by God to become a part of what we are doing in this place. Nothing is too small, nothing is too big. We believe that you could just start from where you are now, identify. It might not necessarily mean that you must come down to Christian Faith Ministries and adopt a child. We believe that there are children who need help where you are. There are children who you might be able to touch their lives. You can begin with just the child who is next door to you, the child who is most in need. And nothing you do today is too little. It's always good to have in mind that when we cater for these children today, we make a better future for ourselves tomorrow. Like we had Mama say, it's easier to educate these children, to care for these children, than to go to war. And war becomes our obvious destination if we fail to take good care of the children we have today. I am sure that not too long from now, we'll be taking Mama up again, but on a different subject. I want to let the cat out of the bag today. Mama also happens to be a very diligent farmer. And she's
but not a very talented one.
she's pioneered some very strong agricultural drives in the ministry here, and I think the next time we'll be talking about some of your agricultural initiatives and what we are doing, and we hope we'll be showing you some of the produce from our farms. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Thank you very much for listening. God bless you. Have yourself a great day, and please become a caregiver and take care of the children around you. God bless you. Thank you, Ma.
Thank you.